Hi, we're going to be doing the very first drunken set that I teach any of my students, and this is called the 4 roads stepping form. So my student Patrick here is going to demonstrate the form. Go ahead, Patrick. Nice and easy all the way through. The set basically contains all of the basic stances that you'd find in any orthodox Kung Fu style, as well as any drunken Kung Fu style. And it consists of 4 parts, each increasing in difficulty, and changing abstract ideas all the way through. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Patrick to demonstrate the entire form, and then we're going to go through the form in parts and actually discuss exactly what's going on inside the set. Of course, obviously it's working on stances, it's working on strength, it's working on all these kinds of things. A few kicks, as you can see, but more importantly, there's abstract ideas for fighting that have to be taken care of before any practitioner can really start doing truly unorthodox drunken boxing. And that's the whole set, all 4 pieces. Okay, so Patrick, we'll get you to just start on road 1, and I'm just going to talk him through it, okay? So the form starts with the hands coming together in front of you, a little back fist action, and then hands on the hips. First 2 movements are foot sweeps, and when they're done in the side kick position, and with force. They shouldn't just be sort of moving your feet out. You want to make sure that as you go into that horse stance, there's actually some force behind it. Every move in this form is actually a fighting movement. It just doesn't always appear that way, especially to a beginner. So the first road involves different animals. The first animal is the crane. Now the crane step can be described as somewhat tentative, very tall, and it's like it's trying to test the water and the depth of the water that it's stepping down into. It comes up into the crane and leads down with the big toe, not the heel. But that's okay. No big deal. And from there, we do the tiger step. The tiger step it's not tentative at all. It's rushing forward, and you'll see Patrick kick the ground with his heel as he goes through. One more, Patrick. That kick is really important. The tiger step has absolutely no fear of any opponent. Tigers don't have fear of an opponent. They're the top of the food chain. So it's very important to understand and manifest that idea when you're doing this technique. We'll do fighting applications after. The third step here is going to be the snake. So he draws his foot in and then brings it back out into a snake stance on each side. Now the first part of this step, when he moves his right foot into his leg, is just as important and requires just as much force as when he's stepping out into that snake stance. Very, very important, because those are both sweeps and kicks. From here, he does a nice little sweep with his left leg into a horse stance, which you can't quite see from our angle here. That's good. And now he leaps up and turns to his left. And what he's doing when he does that leap is he's trying to bring his feet up towards his chest, and his knees really, really high. He's not just sort of jumping in the air and turning. This is for dodging, sweeping, and to teach jumping skills. It trains the tendons in the ankles and the knees to be able to create explosive force. Okay, so then the rest of road 1 is the same steps all the way back. The tentative crane, which is basically front kicks going down into the opponent's legs, then the tiger, and then the snake. Again, the pull and the push, both equally important. From there, he does the same jump on the other side, and then sweeps out with both legs. Left, right. And most Kung Fu forms always do the left-right thing. They always start with the left foot or the left hand, or they always, are always emphasizing the left. The reason for that in most orthodox styles is because most of the world is right-handed. So when the old masters started to create sets, in their wisdom, they started to create the sets with the left side being trained a little bit more often, a little bit harder than the right side. At least that's the whole idea. And this stepping form is no different. So, road 2. Can you turn to face the camera? Now, road 2, what he's first going to do is he's going to turn to the left into a cat stance. And we discussed the bow stance and the cat stance in my other videos, so I'm not going to get real heavy into them here. The cat stance is 90% of the weight on the back leg, about 10% on the front, in this case his left. Hands, you notice, have not moved. They're right where they were at the very beginning of the set. Now the next movement, he steps through into a 7-star stance. And the 7-star stance looks almost identical to the cat stance, but the weight has changed. His knees are together. Face the camera with the 7 stars, please. Both of the feet are basically pointing towards me at this point, at the camera, and the knees are together. The weight distribution is about 99% on the back leg. And if he just switches into a cat stance, you can see that there's a slightly more open feeling to it. The weight is transferred somewhat forward till he's about 90-10, instead of like 95, 98, 1 or 2 that we had in the 7-star stance. And it's got just kind of a different feel to it. The cat stance is like waiting to move. The 7-star stance is a very penetrating, piercing stance. Okay, so just back to your 7-star stance, please. So the next movement in the set, in road 2, is a little side kick down to the leg. Always aim at the knees or lower. This set does not kick higher than the leg. Okay, and then down to a nice horse stance, 50-50. The next movement, he does a cross step behind with his left foot into an X stance. Now the X stance, basics again, orthodox Kung Fu, is weighted between 60 and 70% on the front leg, which in this case is his right, and the rest of the weight falling into the back leg. If he were to turn and face the camera, you'd see that his, into an X please, you'd see that his feet are actually lined up in a nice little line there. Okay, there it is. Pretty simple. Okay, back to where you were, please. From here, all you do is, without any movement, turn around on the balls of the feet into another horse stance. Then you repeat the exact same set all the way back. And then 2 sweeps out. The 2 sweep out thing is basically a mnemonic trigger to remind you where you are in the set and what's going on. Okay, set number 3. And we're just doing the basic choreography here. These are all X stances. He steps out, steps through to the other X, and then turns around. Now, on the way back, we'll discuss what's going on. Notice that on his first step, his leg comes up to his knee and then kicks down and through. What this is doing is closing the groin as you're advancing towards an opponent. If you do it any other way, basically, if you sort of like crescent kick your way through there or something, your groin is wide open as you take your steps. You're not only off balance, but one of your number 1 targets is totally open and you're going to get hit. Absolutely, you're going to get hit, because anybody who knows what they're doing is trying to kick you in the groin as fast as they possibly can, because it generally ends up with people crying and calling out to their mothers and things like that. So, make sure that you close the groin when you step. The second step, he brings his leg right through his other knee, again into a crane stance and closing his groin before dropping the kick down with the left leg with a side kick, again back towards somebody's knee. Next step, he steps in behind, just like we did before, and that is actually what we call a ghost kick. It's basically a back kick that switches all the way around through your X stance to attack at somebody's leg. It's not the easiest one to hit people with, to be totally honest. My teacher made me do a lot of target practice, if you will, on fence posts and things like that. Just make sure that you can walk by them and kick all the way through with that opposite leg. From there, he turns himself around, and the other side, he's going to continue on. So you're going to see him step forward into that X, out to the horse, back to the X, turn, and then all the way back. Perfect. And 2 sweeps out. Okay, now, we're kind of running out of time here for a single video, so what we'll do is we're going to end it there and we'll do road 4 in the next one. The things to remember first, if I could get you to just kind of stand up, Patrick. Road 1 works on a totally straightforward line. So where Patrick is standing, if he just walks forward, that's where road 1 travels, forward and back. Road 2 goes back to the starting point and then goes left and then right. And again, that left being the first thing you do. Road 3 works on your angles. Your forward left angle, which would be like your northwest, and then your forward right angle, which would be northeast if you started the form facing to the north. This has to do with our fighting diagram and the 8 directions. If you don't have all 8 directions available to you when you walk, it's very difficult to be able to deal with an opponent who's actually moving. Okay, thanks a lot, Patrick.